So in response to the horrific, tragic, and beyond comprehension darkness and evil that is happening in the Holy Land, that basically the evil is a force on the planet. It has many names. One of them is Amalek. We are commanded to obliterate, to remove Amalek completely from the earth. But this darkness, the closer we get to a messianic redemption, to a time, a period in the on the globe of world harmony and peace and understanding and enlightenment, this darkness knows that its expiration date is coming, and so it fights the hardest. It fights the hardest to keep its significance, to keep its status. So what we're seeing today in the world is that the darkness is fighting so hard for its survival. But in the end, we know who wins. We know how this all plays out. Anyways, this video is less about focusing on the darkness and more about how this may affect us. And what I want to say is that this isn't the first time this has happened to us, to Israel. We have survival in our DNA. We have been through every kind of evil, atrocity, massacre, pogrom, Holocaust that you can imagine. We're experts at survival. And one of the ways that we survive is we do not allow any of the external events to touch our inner holy place. We don't allow any kind of evil to ever crush our spirit. We don't let it touch what we have inside, because what we have inside is gold. What we have inside is a part of God above and God within. And we're not going to allow any kind of force, no matter how ugly and destructive it is, to touch that holy place. On this note, I wanted to share with you a story. It is a true story that was told by a survivor of the Nazi death camps. And this is what he tells. He said that in his barracks, when they were in the death camps, in the barracks there was one Jew who wouldn't shut up. He was complaining every single day that he didn't belong there, that the Nazis had somehow made a mistake and put him with the rest of the Jews. And how did he justify and rationalize this? Is that he had converted to Christianity much earlier in his life. It was probably because he was looking for some job promotion, right? Career promotion. He made it to become the mayor of a significant town. And he believed that he was no longer a Jew. He didn't identify with Jews anymore. And so every time the guards would come, he would call out to them and he would say, "You've made a big mistake. Call my people, verify. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not like one of these guys around me. I don't belong here. This was an overlooked error that can be corrected. I need to be released immediately." And he referred to the other Jewish inmates around him as animals. He looked down on them, and he was waiting. He was sure that any day the Nazis would correct their mistake and release him. But that day never came. To an enemy, they don't care if you're a believing Jew or an unbelieving Jew. They don't care if you're socialist, Democrat, communist, capitalist, religious, atheist. They don't care. Your bloodline is Jewish, and that's all that matters. It's unbelievable in America how many Jews think that they're safe by not identifying, by distancing themselves from the covenant and from their people. Well, good luck with that, because the enemy does not distinguish. They don't care what you believe or don't believe in. You have Jewish blood, and that's all that matters. And that's what we saw in Israel too, right? So let's continue with the story. So came the month of Tishrei on the Hebrew calendar. That is the month of all of our festivals and holidays. And one of our most holiest and important days is Yom Kippur. And it is a day of atoning for our sins, and it requires a fast. So what the Nazis did is the Nazis realized that they were having trouble lowering our spirit. They weren't able to get into the heart and the spirit of the Jew. Yes, they were able to destroy our bodies, our physical bodies. They were able to hurt us, inflict pain, inflict physical suffering, exterminate us, gas us to death, but they weren't able to touch the spirit of Am Yisrael, the nation of Israel. And that was their dilemma. So what they believe, what the plan was that the days leading up to Yom Kippur, they would stop feeding us. So for about 1 week, there was no food or liquids being given out to the Jewish inmates. And on Yom Kippur itself, when it was a roll call and all the Jews were outside standing, they had a special announcement that compliments of Hitler himself, that they would be able to feast that day. And they began to roll out trays and trays of food. And after the announcement, they were expecting all of the Jews to run forward and to start tackling each other and fighting with each other and acting like beasts and animals to devour that food from the hunger that they had been experiencing. Except this is what happened according to one of the witnesses, the surviving witnesses that was there. He said that when they finished their announcements and gave the green light to go forward and eat, it was that one Jew that distanced himself from the rest of the people that took 3 steps forward, 3 leaps forward, because he was prepared to fight for that food. And after 3 steps, he stopped. He stopped because why did he stop? In the corner of his eye, he realized he was the only one leaping forward. In the corner of his eye, he could see to the right and to the left, not one Jew moved. Now keep in mind it's Yom Kippur, and halachically, by Jewish law, every Jew had every right in the world to go and feed themselves in order to save their own lives. You can definitely eat on Yom Kippur. It's a commandment to eat on Yom Kippur if it implies saving a life. But at that moment that he was ready to leap forward and not one Jew moved, he knew at that moment what was going on. He knew who the real animals were. And he knew who the real godly human beings were. The human beings that had godly souls inside of them. And those were the ones that didn't move because they knew what was going on. They knew this was a setup to humiliate and break the spirit of the Jew. And he knew who the real animals were, and they were the ones in uniform. And at that moment when the man could see the contrast, can see the difference between those who had godly souls and those who were the real beasts, he took 3 steps backwards, and he stood in line and joined his people. So like I said, when it comes down to it, my friends, the enemy does not care whether you're a secular, progressive thinking Israeli at a rave, that a trance dance thing that has separated themselves from their Jewish or Israeli roots. The enemy doesn't care. The enemy doesn't distinguish. And sometimes it's through the eyes of those evil eyes of the enemy that we are reminded of who we are and what we're made of. and the strength and the spirit and the light and determination of who we are as a people. I come from a family of Holocaust survivors. My mother and my grandparents, may their souls rest in peace. And now I have 2 sons fighting on the line for the same freedom to live as Jews. This time we're not in exile. This time we're in our own land fighting for our survival. And let me just tell you something, we will win. We know who wins at the end. We know how the story plays out. We know the final chapters. Am Yisrael Chai, may the nation of Israel live and continue to thrive, not just survive, but to thrive, to flourish, and to continue being a light to the world, to civilization, and to the nations. May God bless those who bless Israel. May we continue to walk the road of faith and strength and light. God bless.